that's left on the S3, mechanically of course, let's cross our fingers when I say that, is the rear strut. We're going to put that in, see if this comes up a little bit because it seems to be sagging comparatively to the other corner, and then we're going to compare. Alright, we're going to do this on the GoPro. Old shock I just took out of the car. Brand new shock from the dealership. $400. Yes, electronic mag ride shock. That's wholesale price $400. It's over $500 retail. Let me just kind of bounce on both of them and see if I feel anything different. Now I got, just so I'm not putting them straight on the floor here because these are expensive. And there's a good chance that this still works fine. But I'm going to bounce up and down on it and just see. Okay, so this has really good resistance. You would think a blown shock would just fall down. That feels fine to me. I don't feel any issue with it. Looking at the mount on top, nothing is damaged. In a minute, I'm going to show you underneath the wheel well there. And that's important because a lot of people are saying, oh, that piece of junk, you're crazy, that car's never going to be good, you'll never be able to align that car, you'll never be... I'm going to show you underneath there, it looks like it was never touched. And this is where the majority of the damage was, on the quarter panel. Sure, has it been repainted? Absolutely, without a doubt. But if you can live with knowing that your car has a little bit of body filler on it, again, I didn't have them completely fill the side and not take the dent out. The dent was pulled out as best as it could. You hammer it flat and then fill it. Paint it, and you'll have a car that looks really darn good, close to new, for, you know, a good percentage off. But first, let me test the other shock out. I got off on a tangent there, but let's just test this next one out, see how it feels. This one actually feels almost smoother than that one. But I think that's just probably because there's no dirt or anything on it. I'm going to put this on. We're going to see if the car comes up a little bit in the back corner. I'm going to show you underneath there before I do that. But this is going to be really interesting. So right here is the rear wheel well. And this right here is the quarter panel where most of the damage of the car was. Let's go back underneath there. And you can see I just haven't taken the rest of the liner off. That's why that's all in your way. But this is mint. This is like perfect. And the damage was all contained, you know, in the suspension here, this corner of the suspension. So for all those people telling you, oh, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, you got to look for a car like the S3. Even though this was fairly heavily damaged and repainted, it's really, in my mind, cosmetic. It doesn't affect the way the car drives, handles, performs. And that's the sort of car that I don't mind putting myself in, driving, and enjoying it for a good fraction off what a retail one would cost. Brand new strut installed, liner put back on. Let's throw the wheel on, let's lower it and see if that fixed our problem. It's amazing how much fun this car is for just a 4-cylinder, 2-liter turbocharged car. And it's not even hardly, there is one modification I haven't told you guys about. I'll tell you about it soon. But it's amazing how fun this car is. It's just a really, really, and I say that because let me tell you, I came from early in the year, I showed you in another video, I had a 2.8 liter supercharged 5.0 Mustang. So I had a big supercharger on, a relatively big supercharger, and the kit claimed to have something like 750 horsepower. But this car, the power is so much more usable. The power is just so much more usable with the all-wheel drive. When you do the launch control, Oh my God, it's a ton of fun. That was honestly a disappointing drive. Well, the car itself rides really good. It's just that those shocks, I don't think really improved any sort of anything. I think the car was already that good before I changed them out. So we'll call that a fail. All right, here's the side of the car that is all original suspension, all original everything pretty much. And this is tough to get exact, but we'll try and go dead center and we'll look here. And if we go and say that right about at that 2-inch mark, you see it's less than 2 inches of clearance between the tire and the fender well. So let's go to the other side now and do the same test. Try and put this right in the center, and let's do that. And see how this one is just a little bit, here we'll go center, little bit lower. Like I said, that's tough to get exactly, but maybe it looks like about, it almost looks more like 1.5 inches. It looks like it's about a 1/2 inch off still. For good measure, let's do the fronts. So this is the passenger side front. Again, this is the original side we're going to compare. So I'm touching the top of the fender well, and we'll go center. And again, that looks about 2¼ inch before the top of the tire. Here is about 2 inches. So we have about 1/4 inch lower on the front driver's side, about a 1/2 inch lower on the rear driver's side, and of course, you know, that's give or take probably a few millimeters, but it still seems to be a little lower on the driver's side. As you probably already figured out if you've been watching this channel, not everything you do when you're rebuilding a car, especially this S3, is going to be a huge win. You want to win overall in the end when it's done. But that doesn't mean that we can't recoup some of the costs of our old parts by selling them back, since we pretty much at this point deemed that they work just fine in the beginning. So now at this point we just have used parts. Let's discuss that. All right, slightly frustrated with the S3. Ride height seems to be about the same. Ride quality is definitely identical. Like I said, the ride quality, even with the front shock before I replaced it, seemed very good. So this to me is puzzling, and I got a lot of really good comments actually. So some people said that a spring could be bad, which I have a very hard time believing, but it definitely could be the case. And the spring, you know, if you get lowering springs, they're shorter. So if there were a bad spring or maybe a bent spring, it could be off. But one of the most interesting comments I got was somebody that owns a Mark 7 GTI, which is very similar to the S3. And they said that since the transmission sits on one side of the car, it actually weighs it down. And it's going to be down a little bit. Now, we're not talking about inches here. We're talking about fractions of an inch. So it's very possible that there's a little differentiator between one side wheel well and the other side. I'm not positive, so if you out there own an Audi S3 or an Audi A3, go ahead, drop me a line please. Instagram, email, all in the description box below. Comment on this video, I read most of the comments. Does your car sit a little bit lower or higher on one side? Even if it's a fraction of an inch, does your car sit a little bit different? What's frustrating is that these shocks are very expensive. Retail, the front cost about $850, $900. The rear, I think it's somewhere between $500 and $600. We're talking about $1,500 worth of shocks. In my case, I feel very fortunate. I was able to source both the front and the rear for about half of that cost, around $750. So I still have right here the old ones, and they seem to work, like I said, perfectly fine. The car rode well. You saw me bounce up and down on the rear run, and that should have probably been the telltale sign. The resistance of the shock that came from the factory and the brand new one felt almost identical. So those shocks likely are fine. They're used. If you ever have gone on Car Dash Parts or look for a specialty item like an electronic shock off of a newer car, they sell for almost like 50-60%. Sometimes these junkyards will ask 75% of their current retail values. It's insane to me to buy a part, I think, for that much. But just goes to show you, there will be a need. Someone will need those shocks. Someone will actually blow one, or one will wear out. Or if my car has a problem down the road, I have them. But you can make some of your money back in a rebuild by selling excess parts. Sometimes you buy a part and it doesn't fit exactly right, you can't return it. Those parts are still good, so you definitely want to stick them online. Someone will eventually need one and they'll order it from you. So recap, the Audi S3, even though it's changed, it's pretty much unchanged. Other than that, I've got some fun projects lined up for both the Fiesta and the V12 Mercedes. I look forward to those because they're going to be more fun projects where these are more repair projects. I hope you guys enjoyed watching some of the repair projects. I hope you learned something from this video. As always, if you want to contact me, please, Instagram, email, everything is in the description box below. If you aren't already following me on Instagram, anything that I don't take the big main camera out to film, a lot of times I'll take my phone out, snap a picture, take a quick video, upload it there. So there's some pretty cool car and chicken related content on there. Again, check it, description box below. Thanks a lot for watching this, and I will catch you very soon.